This video was brought to you by Indently.io, learning Python made simple.
How's it going, everyone? In today's video, we're going to be talking about quite a useful function provided by itertools. And the one we're going to be going over today is called groupby. So to get started, we're going to import groupby from itertools, and then we're going to import from typing the anytype and the iterator type, because I'm going to be using those in this video. Next, we're going to assume that we have some numbers of list of type integer. And that's going to look like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9. Next, we're going to sort this list by the length of each respective list. So what we're going to do next is create something called sorted numbers. And that's going to equal sorted with the numbers, and we're going to use length as the key. And if all goes well, this should still return to us a list of type integer. And we can actually verify that by typing in sorted numbers. And what you should notice in the console is that it is sorted by the length of each one of these lists. So 1 element, 2 elements, and then 3 elements for the final 2. And with all of that being kept in mind, let's try to group these now. So what we're going to do next is create something called grouped numbers, which is going to be of type groupby. Then we can just type in groupby, and inside here, we're going to pass in our sorted numbers and pass in the key, which is going to be the length. So it's going to group these numbers by the length. And right now, if we were to print this grouped numbers object, what we're going to get back is an itertools groupby object. And this is an iterator, which is extremely memory efficient. And with that, we can actually use the next method on that to actually grab one of the elements. And what you're going to notice is that you're going to get back something that looks like this: a tuple that contains the key, or the actual groupby key, and another itertools object. And this actually contains the elements. So to get both of those back, you're going to have to unpack it. You can type in AB equals next grouped numbers, and then print A and the list of B. We need to actually exhaust that iterator by using it. And what you'll notice is that 1 is going to contain the value of 6, because that is the first element in our groupby iterator. Now, to actually show you the results of what this did, what we're going to do next is create a for loop. So for length, comma, group in grouped numbers, we're going to print the f string of length equals, for quick debugging, and the list of the group. And what we're going to get as an output are these 3 lines. First, the length that contains 1 element, so that is 6, that is a list with only 1 element. And then we have a length of 2, which contains all the lists that contain 2 elements. And we also have a group that contains a list which contains 3 elements, or a list which contains lists of 3 elements. And you'll notice that if we add another element, such as a single value of 10, it's going to be added to the length of 1. So now we successfully grouped each one of these by their length. So that was the first example. And if that didn't really make any sense, don't worry, we're going to be going over 2 more examples on how you can use this. So let's move on to our next example. And for the next example, we're going to be using this list of string, which I called words. And it just contains a bunch of words, such as cat, cactus, owl, dog, orange, Bob, blue, and bread. And what we want to do is sort these, or group them, by their first letter. So what we're going to do next is type in grouped words of type groupby. And that's going to equal groupby sorted words. Please go inside there. And we're going to provide a key, which is going to be a lambda this time. And that's going to take a string, and it's going to check what's at the index of 0. Now with that, what we're going to do is create another for loop. So for letter and group in grouped words, we're going to print starts with letter and the word, or the list of words. So list of the group. And what we should get as an output is the letter it starts with and the words that contain that letter. And one thing that's important to note is that I'm always sorting it before performing this groupby operation. And it's very important that we do sort it, because if cactus, for example, was somewhere later in the list, such as behind bread, so it's all the way at the end, and we did not sort the words, it's not going to group them together. So right now, if we were to run this, you'll notice that it's going to start a new list at the bottom. When you are using group by, they have to be consecutive. So cat and cactus have to be next to each other for group by to actually recognize them as a group. This is crucial, or else it's not going to work. That's why you're going to notice that I'm going to sort everything before I even attempt to use group by. Anyway, let's move on to the final example. And for this example, I'm going to create a dictionary, which just contains a bunch of people. Or actually, I'm going to create many dictionaries. So as you can see, this is a list that contains dictionaries of type string, toString, and integer. And all that's going to contain is a name, an age, and a city. And what we want to do is group these people by their city. And we're going to be doing that using the group by method. But before we do that, I'm also going to import from operator item getter. And this is going to be very useful for retrieving values from dictionaries. Now down here, I'm going to create a variable called getCity, which is going to be of type item getter. And all this is going to do is grab the value from city. And as always, before we do anything, we need to sort this iterable. So here we're going to create sorted cities, which is going to be of this type up here, list of dictionary of string, toString, or integer. And that's going to equal sorted. And we're going to pass in the people, and the key is going to be set to the item getter, which is getCity. Optionally, you can just pass in item getter directly to the key. But since I'm going to be using this several times, I decided just to turn it into a variable. Now, when you actually print this, what you should notice is that you will get a list back with the cities sorted. So it's going to start with the people from Chicago, and then it's going to move on to the people from New York, and so on. They are now sorted by the city. So next, what we're going to do is create a grouped object called grouped people of type group by, which will equal group by, and we're going to pass in the people with the key set to getCity. And next, we're going to style this so it actually looks nice when we display it to the user. So for city and group in grouped people, we're going to print first the city with a colon so that the city will display nicely and all the people will be listed within it. Then we can type in for person in group, print the f string of person at the index of name, with the age being set to the person at the index of age. And I actually forgot to add a dash here with 2 spaces in front of it. And another thing I forgot was to pass in the sorted cities here, not the people, because otherwise we would have done all this work for nothing. But now when we actually try to run this, what you should notice is this nice list that contains the people sorted by the city. And it actually looks lovely, so I'm very proud with the result. So yeah, that's how you can use the group by method provided by itertools. And I'm sure there's another way to do it via list comprehensions or your own for loop logic, but it's important to note that if you want to maximize on memory efficiency, it's created by professionals who actually spent all their lives optimizing code. Otherwise, if you're doing something very small or very quick and dirty, try to invent your own for loop object. I just recommend you use itertools because it's quite simple once you get the hang of it. Anyway, that's actually all I wanted to cover in today's video. Do let me know in the comment section down below whether something's still fuzzy or if I could have explained something a bit better. I would love to hear about that in the comment section down below. But otherwise, as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.